Welcome back. Welcome to the Premier Mindset by Premier Performance LLC. I'm your host, Trent Mailer, LCSW, licensed clinical therapist and performance coach, and this is episode 57. You're in the middle of a critical moment. Everything you've built, every decision, every late night, every strategy meeting, it all comes down to this one instant. The conference room is silent except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Your team is looking at you, eyes sharp, waiting for your call. Outside, the clock ticks. You know the numbers, the projections, the stakes. And yet, there's a voice inside your head, subtle, almost invisible, whispering, "What if I mess this up?" That whisper, it's harmless at first. But in moments like this, subtle cracks in your mindset aren't just thoughts. They're performance leaks. They slow decisions, they cloud clarity, they dilute authority. They can make even the most capable leader hesitate. And most high performers, they never notice it, not until it costs them. Let's be blunt. You can grind all day, optimize every process, and hire the smartest people in the room. But if your mind isn't calibrated, if your intentional operating system is off, even slightly, you're leaving points on the board. Millions in opportunity, years in momentum. And if you're an athlete, fractions of a second, lost in the blink of an eye. Mindset isn't just part of a performance, it is performance. When mastered, it's a cheat code. I want you to consider that for a second. A cheat code, not a motivational platitude, not some think positive meme, an actual internal lever that when flipped changes how fast, how clearly, and how effectively you operate. The first step to activating that lever is awareness. Quick note before we dive in, this podcast is for education and performance growth. It's not a replacement for therapy or medical treatment. If there is something you need, make sure you go and get it. On top of that, our social media accounts are all linked in the episode description. Make sure to follow along and get involved in those communities as we continue to grow. Now let's bring it into focus with a simple tool. This tool is called the Mindset Awareness Lens. Imagine this as a high-definition camera pointed at your own internal operating system. Your job is to notice the friction points, those small, almost invisible thoughts that derail execution. Are you hesitating because of self-doubt? Are you overanalyzing because your fear of losing control? Are you letting someone else's anxiety leak into your decisions? Here's the exercise. Take 60 seconds right now. Close your eyes if you have to. Think about the last decision you delayed, the last moment you felt uncertainty creeping in. Where did your mind go first? Did you jump to worst case scenarios? Did you fixate on what others would think? That's your lens picking up on the cracks. Noticing them is the first step in turning your mindset into a performance advantage. Recognition is always the first step. Now let's escalate it into action. Awareness without calibration is like spotting turbulence but doing nothing about it. You need what I call the focus calibration drill. This is a simple, immediate recalibration that allows you to center attention on what actually matters in high stakes moments. It's short, but it's powerful. First, take a deep breath. Identify your three most critical inputs right now. What must be accurate, what must move, and what must happen to make this moment successful. Say them out loud or silently, but anchor your attention there. Then, reset your body posture. Stand or sit tall, shoulders back, eyes forward. You're now physically and mentally aligned with the highest priority actions, not the chatter, not the worry, not the noise. This drill is not a meditation. It's a rapid, tactical mindset reset you can do in seconds while the stakes are still high. Let me paint a real picture. Imagine a CEO of a fast-scaling startup. They're sitting in a board meeting. Investors are pressing for projections. The team is looking for direction. The numbers aren't what anyone expected. Panic is invisible, but it's there. Every single mind in the room feels the pressure. The CEO takes a breath, pulls out the focus calibration drill in their head, identifies the one thing that moves the needle this quarter. clarifies that with the board in under 90 seconds. Suddenly the room pivots, calm, execution focused, no hesitation, no panic. The same scenario with the same numbers could have spiraled into doubt, arguments, or lost opportunities. The difference is mindset. This is where most high performers fail. They focus on skills, on tools, on strategies, on processes. But they ignore the operating system, their mind. They expect it to work like a machine, flawless, predictable, without maintenance. And here's the hidden cost. The small, unseen moments of hesitation compound over weeks, months, and years. They leak performance, influence, and credibility. Let's make it personal. Think about your own world. When was the last time you noticed your own hesitation or friction? Not the big, obvious mistakes, the subtle ones, the mental pauses, the overthinking, the I'll sleep on it moments when action was required. That's where your mindset is silently holding you back. That's the cheat code. Not by luck, not by circumstance, but by choice. Because you can notice it, calibrate it, and rewire it for speed, clarity, and impact. Here's a second tactical way to engage the mindset awareness lens in real time. Internal audit triggers. Every time you feel the tension, the doubt, or the hesitation in a high stakes moment, pause for a microsecond and ask, is this my mind adding friction or is this the situation? Most of the time, it's your mind. And that's good news. Because if it's your mind, it can be trained, calibrated, and turned into your secret weapon. If it's the situation, then your mind will be prepared to respond strategically, not reactively. Now I'm going to show you how this starts to link to broader performance impact. Imagine the athlete stepping into a final game deciding moment. The crowd noise, the opposing defense, the pressure, it's unbearable if your mind isn't aligned. Same focus calibration principles apply. Identify critical action points, the next pass, the next step, the next technique. Physically anchor your posture, mentally anchor your priority. Suddenly, chaos becomes clarity. Split-second decisions become decisive, confident, and high performing. This isn't luck, it's mindset operating as a cheat code. The stakes are obvious now. Every moment you spend grinding without aligning your internal operating system is wasted energy. Every decision made from hesitation or friction compounds into lost opportunities for your team, your business, your performance. And if you're a leader, you're setting a precedent. Your mindset doesn't just move you, it moves your team. Every small mental leak is amplified across your organization. Here's one last tool to close out this first part. A quick 90-second micro-priming routine to prepare your mind for critical moments. Stand even if you're on a call. Close your eyes. Take 3 deliberate breaths. For each breath, name one point of clarity you need in the next moment. Then visualize your highest possible execution in the next 60 seconds. Open your eyes. You are now operating at your first layer of high performance mindset. The trick is simple. You can do this anywhere, anytime, in any high stakes situation. And every time you do, you compound your ability to execute flawlessly under pressure. By the end of this first section, here's what I want you to internalize. Most high performers ignore the cheat code. They grind harder, they multitask, they push through stress, and they wonder why execution is slower than it should be, why decisions feel heavier, why moments that should be clutch feel like panic. The difference between mediocre execution and elite performance is not skills or knowledge, it's mindset calibration. Awareness plus focused alignment equals decisive action. If you can carry just this into the next hour of your day, you're already operating above most of your peers. You've begun to see the invisible friction. You've noticed where your mind leaks energy. You've taken the first tactical steps to use your mindset as a performance cheat code. And this is only the beginning. Next, we're going to escalate. We're going to move beyond awareness into identity level insights, how mindset shapes your influence, your leadership, your team, and how unchecked mental friction silently erodes performance culture. This is where things get real because the stakes shift from your own execution to the execution of everyone relying on you. Picture this: you walk into a room for a high stakes executive meeting, the kind where every word is measured, every glance carries weight, and the decision, made or not made, will ripple through the company. The team is already tense. You can feel it before anyone even speaks. There's a subtle undercurrent: impatience, hesitation, maybe even unspoken judgment. Everyone's waiting for direction, but no one's saying exactly what they think. This is where mindset stops being just personal and it becomes relational. What you carry internally affects not only your performance, but the performance of everyone around you. Your team can feel it before you even know it. A fraction of hesitation, a subtle self doubt, mental loop of what ifs, and suddenly the room's energy shifts. Conversations get clipped, ideas are half stated, decisions stall, friction becomes invisible yet powerful. This is where I want to introduce a key principle: cognitive framing adjustment. It's a tool that shifts your perspective in real time, changing not just your interpretation of the moment, but how your team perceives and reacts to you. Instead of seeing a stalled conversation as a challenge or a threat, you reframe it as an opportunity to clarify priorities. Instead of letting internal doubt spiral, you identify what's actionable right now. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. Imagine a CEO. Let's call her Angela. In this exact scenario, the company is at a pivot point. Her executive team is debating the next product rollout. Tension is rising. People are speaking over each other. The CTO silently questions the strategy but hasn't voiced it. The CFO is already calculating risk in the back of his mind. And Angela feels that old, familiar internal pressure, the hesitation creeping in, the self doubt whispering, maybe I don't have the right answer. Angela doesn't let the whisper dominate. She engages internal dialogue control, another mental lever. She identifies the unhelpful thoughts. I might fail. They're judging me. She labels them, isolates them, and decides they are not the drivers of action right now. The mind chatter is acknowledged, but it doesn't dictate her next move. Then she applies cognitive framing adjustment. She reframes the tension. This isn't conflict, it's information. These disagreements aren't threats, they're insights. With this subtle pivot, she speaks. She sets the frame. Here's what matters most. Let's align on that first. The change is immediate. People shift, voices calm, ideas flow with purpose rather than friction. What would have been a stalled, tense meeting becomes a high functioning decision making environment, all because the leader controlled the internal dialogue and reframed the situation. This is a mindset as a cheat code: invisible, internal work creating outsized relational impact. I want to take you even deeper into this moment. Notice what's happening psychologically in the room. Each team member has their own filters, biases, and insecurities. The CTO's unspoken doubt is magnified by Angela's subtle hesitation. The CFO's risk assessment triggers defensiveness in others. Every unsaid thought amplifies tension. But when Angela recalibrates her mindset, the ripple effect is exponential. One aligned mind creates a stabilizing influence. Her mental clarity resets the room, not by forcing compliance, but by modeling composure and decisiveness. Let's pause here for a high intensity moment. Imagine you're in that room. You feel the tension building in your chest, the silent judgments, the questions left unasked. And you realize every second your mind hesitates, the room reacts, not to the facts, not to the data, but to the signal your internal friction sends. This is the high stakes psychology in action. Not managing mindset is relational sabotage, even if it's unintentional. Every thought, every internal loop, every hesitation projects outward. The people who depend on you don't just see your actions, they sense your state. Here's how you translate that into action seamlessly. You reinforce the focused calibration drill we introduced earlier. In a tense discussion, anchor your mind to the three critical outcomes you control. Physically reset. Sit tall, shoulders back, make eye contact. Then overlay internal dialogue control. Identify the mental loops, label them as non actionable distractions, and consciously decide which thoughts are driving forward motion. Finally, implement cognitive framing adjustment. Recontextualize conflict as insight, stress as opportunity, and hesitation as a signal to clarify. This isn't theory, it's strategic. Because here's the reality: high performing leaders who ignore this relational layer are blind to the silent ways their mindset dictates culture and execution. Your hesitations you don't notice, your team does. The second guessing you try to hide, your team feels. The subtle tension you dismiss multiplies across every interaction. Mindset becomes performance leverage the moment you consciously engage it. Let's bring it to a second scenario to illustrate relational stakes. Picture a top athlete leading a relay team. It's the finals. Each runner's mindset affects the handoffs. If the anchor is tense, the baton gets fumbled. If one leg doubts their speed, hesitation creeps into the exchange zone. Coaches can't fix it. Trainers can't fix it. The outcome is determined by invisible internal states, the mindset behind every movement. A leader, whether in business or sports, sets the baseline of collective execution through their mental presence. And this is where many leaders fail without realizing it. They focus on results, metrics, KPIs, deadlines, game plans, but ignore the internal landscape that actually drives those outputs. Miss a beat in mindset calibration, and you're fighting not only your own friction, but the amplified friction of everyone you lead. That's identity level consequence. Your internal state determines not just your performance, but how people perceive you, trust you, and follow you. Here's a moment for real tactical integration. In any team meeting or high pressure scenario, take a 2-minute internal audit. Check your baseline state. Are your thoughts generating alignment or discord? Are you operating from curiosity or from fear? Are your internal narratives productive or leaking tension? Then apply the trio: the focus calibration drill, the internal dialogue control, and the cognitive framing adjustment. Anchor, label, reframe. The result is subtle but powerful. Your internal mastery becomes a stabilizing force for the room. Finally, let's highlight stakes with an emotional pulse. Imagine the CEO again. The meeting has stretched longer than expected. Team members are exhausted. Patience is thin. A critical decision still hangs unresolved. Angela feels the internal tension threatening to take over. She could default to old habits, over explaining, deflecting, second guessing, but she doesn't. She applies her internal tools, recenters, and delivers the decision with clarity and authority. The room shifts, eyes relax, energy moves from anxiety to execution. And in that moment, it's clear: unchecked mindset would have led to delay, missed opportunities, and eroded trust. But controlled mindset creates decisive, high performance leadership that scales across the organization. By the end of this section, here's what I want you to understand: awareness of mindset is not enough. It must operate at an identity level. Your internal state dictates your influence, your culture, your relational impact, and your ability to move toward peak performance. This is where the cheat code becomes obvious, not in personal wins alone, but in the multiplied wins of everyone you lead. Next, we escalate even further. We will pull back to the structural and systematic layer: how mindset operates within your nervous system, your performance loops, and your repeated outcomes. We'll explore physiological priming, mental rehearsal, and micro commitments, showing how small mindset tweaks compound into consistent high level execution. Let's step back from the individual, from the room, from the tension and identity stakes we talked about in part 2, and now I want you to take a look under the hood, to the engine that drives every high stakes performance. This is where mindset stops being abstract and starts being structural, where it ceases to be momentary pivot and becomes a system of influence that impacts your physiology, your repeated behaviors, your team's output, and ultimately your results over time. Performance isn't just what you do, it's how your nervous system reacts to pressure. It's how your mind interprets challenge and threat. It's the subtle way your body responds when the stakes are highest. Your mindset literally rewires those responses. When you engage intentionally, you're not just thinking differently, you're activating a cascade of performance advantages that most leaders never see. I want to introduce the first tool in this structural layer, the performance priming routine. Think of it as a pre flight checklist for your brain and body. Before a high pressure call, a pitch, a meeting with your board, or a championship moment, you prime your system. This isn't about motivational speeches or pep talks. It's about physiological and psychological alignment. Ground yourself in your body, posture, breath, and micro movements that anchor focus. Layer that with mental alignment. Identify the outcome that matters most. Visualize the steps you'll take and bring your cognitive resources online before the external stakes hit. I've used this personally in moments that mattered more than anything else I'd faced professionally. There was one high stakes negotiation early in my career, a deal that would either make or break a major initiative. I was aware of every potential risk, every possible objection. I felt the familiar tension building in my chest. Normally, that stress would lead to hesitation, a fractured delivery, or worse, overcorrection. Instead, I applied a structured priming routine, deep diaphragmatic breaths to reset my nervous system, brief physical movements to release pent up energy, and a micro visualization of the conversation going perfectly, while still allowing for unpredictability. I anchored my mind to actionable steps rather than the fear of failure. Within minutes, the tension shifted from threat to preparation. The deal closed successfully, not because I had a perfect plan, but because I had aligned my internal systems to perform optimally under pressure. Next comes micro commitment mental alignment. This is deceptively simple but profound. Small, repeatable wins are the currency of mindset power. It's not about giant leaps, it's about calibrated incremental reinforcement. Every micro commitment you honor, whether delivering on a promise to yourself, following through on a small daily task, or executing a component of a bigger plan, rewards your system with evidence that you are competent, capable, and aligned. Think of a basketball player during free throws. Each successful shot reinforces confidence. Each micro success primes the nervous system to expect success on the next one. Leaders, executives, and athletes often overlook this. They chase monumental results, ignoring that their brains and bodies are wired to respond to repeated micro affirmations. When you build this system, hesitation dissolves and decision making under pressure becomes fluid. Here's the final structural tool for this section, cognitive rehearsal simulation. This isn't casual visualization. This is precise mental modeling under realistic pressure. You simulate the moment in advance, fully engaging cognitive, emotional, and physiological responses. You anticipate stress triggers, friction points, and objections. You practice navigating them while maintaining composure. When the actual moment arrives, it feels familiar, manageable, and even controllable. Your system isn't encountering chaos, it's executing a rehearsed performance. Let me pull these together in a personal anecdote that illustrates the compounding effect. I was leading a workshop for a high performance team, a mix of executives and athletes, tasked with making a series of rapid, high impact decisions. Midway, one of the exercises created unexpected friction, competing priorities, clashing opinions, and palpable stress. Normally, this would trigger hesitation and defensive reactions. I caught myself in the moment, used the focus calibration drill to center my attention on the desired outcome, applied internal dialogue control to quiet unhelpful thoughts, and ran a rapid mental cognitive rehearsal simulation for the next decision sequence. Simultaneously, I leaned on micro commitment mental alignment, acknowledging small decisions we'd already executed successfully to reinforce confidence. The effect was almost immediate. The room recalibrated, decisions flowed faster, energy shifted from tension to execution, the team moved cohesively, despite high stakes and limited time. What could have become chaos became a controlled, high performance sequence, all because mindset was operating not as a passive state, but as a structured system influencing every behavior, every choice, every interaction. Now let's examine the mechanism behind this. Stress activates the sympathetic nervous system. Threats, real or perceived, trigger fight or flight responses. Heart rate rises, breathing becomes shallow, focus narrows. These reactions are helpful in survival contexts, but are catastrophic in high level leadership, complex problem solving, or precise athlete performance. Mindset, when intentionally primed and rehearsed, engages the parasympathetic system to stabilize physiological arousal, while cognitive systems are set to prioritize clarity, problem solving, and execution. You're literally rewiring the moment before it even happens. That's why the performance priming routine, the micro commitment alignment, and the cognitive rehearsal are so effective. They transform biological reaction into strategic advantage. Here's another layer. These systematic tools don't just impact you, they ripple through your team. Nervous system synchronization is real. Calm, prepared leadership stabilizes the room. Micro commitments and rehearsed execution create shared confidence. The entire culture of performance shifts from reactive to proactive. What was once friction becomes momentum. Mindset at this level isn't a private hack, it's a structural lever affecting every outcome around you. I want to emphasize a subtle but critical point. Vulnerability is part of mastery. In that same workshop, I had to admit uncertainty during one of the exercises, acknowledging I didn't have all the answers in real time. This is not weakness, this is controlled vulnerability. By combining that honesty with tools I just outlined, I modeled composure and adaptability. The team saw that mindset mastery doesn't require perfection, it requires structure, alignment, and repeated intentional practice. That was a moment when our small mindset tweaks, breath, focus, micro affirmations, rehearsal, created outsized impact on collective performance. By the end of this part, the takeaway is clear. Mindset isn't a nice to have, it is a systematic advantage. When your body, brain, and behaviors are primed, aligned, and rehearsed, you gain leverage few others in your field even recognizes exists. The combination of physical anchoring, cognitive rehearsal, and micro commitments produces a compounding effect, turning preparation into consistent execution, hesitation into decisiveness, and friction into flow. Next, we'll take this to the ultimate level, integration and long term transformation. We'll pull all the tools together into a systematic mindset cheat code activation, demonstrate it under extreme pressure, and explore how this approach defines leadership legacy, team culture, and sustained high performance over years, not just in a single moment. Now let's bring it all together. Up to now, we have walked you from awareness to identity, from tension to structural mastery. We've seen how mindset isn't just a thought pattern, it's a system. And it's time to take that system and turn it into a cheat code that consistently generates outsized results. Think back to the early stages of this episode, where a leader or athlete faced a critical moment and subtle mindset gaps created hesitation. That wasn't a one off. That scenario happens every day in boardrooms, on courts, in pitch meetings, and high stakes negotiations. Every decision, every interaction, every critical call is filtered through your mindset. If your system isn't optimized, you're leaving energy, focus, and results on the table. The mindset cheat code activation is the culmination of every tool we've discussed. It's not a single exercise, it's the orchestration of awareness, focus, cognitive framing, dialogue control, priming routines, commitments, and rehearsal. It's your internal operating system, aligned and performing at peak capacity under pressure. When activated, your nervous system, your cognition, and your behaviors all converge to support the outcomes you're striving for. Picture this. You walk into a room filled with tension. Stakes are high, people are watching, evaluating, waiting. Normally, this is where friction shows up. Decisions slow down, and energy leaks out in hesitation. But today, you're running on your cheat code. Your focus calibration drill anchors attention immediately. Cognitive distortions are adjusted through cognitive framing adjustment. Self-sabotaging chatter is quieted with internal dialogue control. Your body and mind are synchronized through the performance priming routine. Micro affirmed through micro commitment alignment. And mentally rehearsed via cognitive rehearsal simulation. Every component is in place. The room feels your presence shift. Subtly but unmistakably. Decisions flow. Communication becomes sharp. The culture of execution is felt, not told. Let me give you a real moment from my own experience. I was leading a team through a high-stakes operational pivot. We had limited time, competing priorities, and external pressure mounting. Normally, this environment creates defensiveness, confusion, and second-guessing. But I approached it systematically. I engaged the cheat code. My awareness caught the early signs of internal resistance in the room. I ran the focus drill, aligned micro commitments to reinforce momentum, and walked the team through the mental rehearsal of each critical decision. The shift was immediate. Tension turned into clarity. Individuals who had been hesitant became decisive. The team moved as a unit, responding fluidly to the unexpected. That pivot became not just a success, but a transformative moment for team confidence. This is the moment I want you to feel right now, the emotional peak of activation. Picture the pressure of a critical decision, the stakes of your next major goal, the weight of leadership bearing down on you. Now imagine every tool we've discussed working together. Your mind clear, your body poised, your cognition primed, your confidence validated by micro successes, your perspective calibrated for opportunity instead of threat. That is the cheat code. That is the difference between reacting and performing at your absolute best. That is what separates high performers from the rest. Here's what separates leaders who leave outcomes to chance from those who shape them intentionally. Action. Not just thinking, not just awareness, but disciplined, structured, repeatable activation of mindset. High performers don't leave this to luck. They engineer it, they hold themselves accountable. They ensure every day, every moment, every decision is filtered through a system designed to maximize their performance and the performance of those around them. And here's the truth. Education alone doesn't create this advantage. Reading about mindset, listening to advice, or watching others perform won't generate systematic results. What creates results is implementation, accountability, and structured practice, where premier performance exists to provide. This is why high performers invest in coaching, systems, and feedback loops. You don't have to figure it out alone, but you do have to take ownership of the process. Your next step is clear. Begin treating your mindset like the high performance system it is. Activate your cheat code deliberately, integrate awareness, focus, cognitive control, priming, micro commitments, and rehearsals into your everyday decision making. Track outcomes, adjust and refine, make your internal system so reliable that external chaos becomes irrelevant. Let me leave you with this. Mindset isn't a side skill. It isn't optional. It isn't a theory. Mindset is a lever, a multiplier, a cheat code. And mastery of it defines who you are as a leader, the culture you create, the team you influence, and the legacy you leave. Every high performer you admire, Every leader who seems unshakable under pressure. They've learned to operate their cheat code consistently. Now it's your turn. Take this episode, take these tools, and commit to activating your mindset daily. Treat it like the system it is. Your performance, your team, and your legacy depend on it. That's not aspirational, that's practical. That's what high performers do. And if you want guidance in implementing this at the deepest, most actionable level, that's exactly what we do at Premier Performance. We take high performing leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes. We help them engineer their mindset for consistent, systematic excellence. Because potential without structure is wasted, and structure without execution is meaningless. The cheat code exists, it's in you, but it must be activated intentionally. This is your moment. Activate it, own it, lead through it, and watch as your performance, your team, and your outcomes align with the level of excellence you know you're capable of achieving. Resilient minds, premier results. That's what we're building here with the premier mindset. And as always, recognition is the first step. We need to see things before we can do anything about it. If we don't realize what we're doing or what we're missing, we can't fix it. So reflect and notice what you're doing, pay attention to the patterns, and recognize how your actions are blocking your goals. With that, this episode is meant to provide tools for performance. It's not to replace individualized therapy. If you're struggling with anxiety, burnout, or persistent stress, professional guidance is critical. At Premier Performance LLC, we work with high achievers to implement strategies like these with precision, accountability, and results. If you're interested, reach out and let's get started together. We do free consultations just to talk through what's going on to see if working together is a good fit. So let's reach out and see what we can do. On top of that, I make it a point to give you actionable tools to find success in your life. Let me know if it's helping. I love staying connected with all of you guys. And if there's certain things you want to hear more about, let me know. I'm always open to feedback and going in certain directions if it would be helpful for you guys. Just let me know what you're looking for. I'd love to hear how this episode impacts you. If it does hit you in some way and it's helpful, let me know. Whether it's good or bad, we like hearing both sides. We just like connecting with you guys and knowing how things are going. So let us know. And if there's someone in your life that you think could benefit from hearing this, make sure to share it with them. You may never know how many people might need to hear one or two things from an episode like this, and it can completely change their life. So if you have somebody that comes to mind, just send it their way. If they listen to it, great. If they don't, no big deal. But give them the chance, give them the opportunity. And with that, if it's helpful, leave a review. That helps us get this in front of more people, which is our ultimate goal. We're trying to spread awareness and give people more tools and education that they can use to take advantage of their life and to reach their dreams and goals more effectively. And if you have any questions, reach out. You can do that in a lot of different ways. You can email me at teammailer@premierperformancereno.com. You can send me emails and ask me questions, whatever you got. I'm open to it. You can text or call me at 775-561-0056. I have the Instagram and the TikTok with the same name for both of those, which is premier_performance_Reno. I have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page with the same name, which is Premier Performance LLC for both of those. Then I have the Twitter or the X account, which is at Premier Reno LLC. And finally, we have our website, which is www.premierperformancereno.com. So get involved, reach out, get into those communities as we post content literally every day. And we have podcast episodes coming out every week. And I'm here to connect with you guys and help however I can. So reach out if you have a question or if there's something that I can help with. Next week, we'll continue with all this, and we're going to go into trust breakdown in leadership, what that looks like, how it happens, and how to come back from it. So we'll dive deeper into that. I know we've been talking a lot about trust lately, but it's such a big part of high-level performance. If we don't feel safe psychologically, we can't trust the people we're working with. We can't reach these high levels. So we're going to keep going with that next week. And like I said, if there's certain topics you guys want to hear more about, just let me know and reach out. And we'll get those on the schedule and get those going. With that being said, I hope you all have a great week. Go be the best you can be. Go reach for what you want. And don't be afraid to fail. It's part of it. And remind yourself you can handle it. If you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, have a great week, and I will talk to you guys soon.